Hey everybody, welcome back. I am so excited to talk to you guys today. Well, not really that excited, but I did want to get some things off my chest. So let's get into today's video. But if you wouldn't mind hitting that like button and subscribing to my channel, that'd be great. So let's talk about some of the things that are going on right now. The current administration, I'm not going to name names, Tangerine, I meant to say Cheeto Dust, I mean Trump. Okay, he's done some things that I think are quite destructive, especially to members of the LGBT community. I am not a big fan. You take a certain moniker away, a certain acronym away, and all of these abbreviations, labels, and titles, yeah, in the grand scheme of things are relatively meaningless. But that's not the point. The point is that people have the right to exist. And one of my biggest gripes with everything that's going on right now are some of the thoughts that I've had. Christians, religious individuals, I don't know where you guys sit, but for me, I'm more of a Buddhist myself. If we can all agree that we are spiritual beings above our physical forms, I don't think it matters how one chooses to identify. Because if we are spiritual beings, that means gender, genitalia, identification are irrelevant. And what do I mean by that? I mean that people have the right to self-determination and acceptance. And if you are going to go out there and proclaim that your right way of thinking is the only way of thinking, you might as well be as dystopian as a dictator. Everyone's perspective and experience is different, and I don't think it's right for people to judge. 2, I look at everything from a workplace perspective, because I truly believe that if you're going to be happy and successful and live a very long and fruitful life, whatever you do for your employment will bring you joy and happiness. So let's talk about that for a minute. There were a couple people that I worked with directly that were trans. When I sold cars, there was a gal that came in, I can't remember her name, but she was an absolute sweetheart. Before she transitioned, he was in the military, and basically you have to think of this type of stuff as like a rebirth. I don't have to deal with that. I might be gay, but that doesn't have anything to do with trans people all that often. Now, I'm looking at this gal that I was talking with, because the reason why this thing stings so much is because when I was selling cars, there was a gentleman, God rest his soul, he passed away unfortunately several years ago. His name was Bill. Lovely, lovely man, except for some of his homophobic opinions. It doesn't mean that people with bad ideas aren't good people, but the one thing I want to hone down is that Bill, although he was flawed, turned away a customer. And she was walking around the dealership, walking around the lot, looking at different trucks. She was struggling financially. She was a huge drag star. I don't know if she still is, but I hope she's doing well. But regardless, Bill goes up to her and says, "I don't think you belong here. We don't serve your kind here." After I had heard what had happened, like I said, at this point, selling cars back in 2016, 2017, I wasn't out myself. So I go out there and I start talking to her and getting to know her. It's raining outside, so I take her inside the showroom and we start talking about, life and how we can help her needs. And what we ended up doing is, because she had a house she was paying her mortgage on, but she couldn't afford a payment for a truck and a mortgage, but she was never even home. She wasn't going to get what it was worth out of that home. And after working with her for a couple weeks, she had an appraisal done, and it turned out that her mortgage was cheap, but the issue was that her home was way overvalued when she purchased it. And so she decided to stop making payments and default on the mortgage. Not a great idea for most people, but for her, it made sense. She went out, bought a camper, bought the truck, tows the camper down to Vegas, goes where she needs to, and it's amazing. She's able to do what she wants. But I wouldn't have been able to have that experience with her if I didn't get to know her and understand her as a person. And I think it is really unfortunate that a lot of people tend to judge people before they get to know someone. That little bit of extra care and attention made that person's day. And, you have no idea what people are going to do. You have no idea what's going through anybody's head, right? That could have ended in a lawsuit. That could have ended in a fatality. That could have been an absolute tragic event for her. But it wasn't, and it turned out to be great. And I'd like to think that I had a great part in turning things around. But everyone has a different role to play in the grand scheme of things. I keep saying that phrase a lot because I truly believe it. I don't think there's as many coincidences as people are likely to believe. Another experience I had was at the company I just came from, involving Mr. H again. And he wanted to have a debate with me. And had this conversation with me several times. But the gist of it was, hey, Nate, you're gay. I got to have this debate with you. And I was like, I don't want to debate you. Yet again, when someone says stop, that's still a form of harassment. Be respectful of people's boundaries. Don't continually berate someone to cross that line. Anyway, side tangent left over there. I had this conversation with him multiple times where he would come up to me and say, hey, because you're gay, you have this perspective, but you're here on a job site. So he automatically assumed that I voted for a tangerine, okay? I am very politically homeless. I am in the middle. I love my socialist friends. I love my conservative friends, and I disagree with both of them, and I think we need a balance of both. I know I'm going to get a lot of flack and a lot of hate for that, but I don't care. That's just what I believe. And I can only share my experiences. Regardless, he asked, well, do you think this trans thing that's going on right now, this was back in 2024, so he was talking about the trans issues that were happening at the time with sports, primarily because his daughter was a really good athlete, and I think she still is. I think she's in college, or maybe she's a part of an art school. I can't remember. But she's incredibly talented, really good at what she does, and she's a dancer. And there was a gal that was in their patrol, and she started to transition into a boy. And he goes, well, I wouldn't inform my child that they were defective by giving them the delusion that they're something that they're not. Let me tell you something right now. You start to be able to make decisions for yourself by the time you're 5 or 6. I don't think people should be physically transitioning until they're done with puberty. That's just my opinion, and I think there's just some health complications that come with that. However, I think that people should have the right to choose who they are. When a child comes out as queer, it's a huge deal. It can destroy families and relationships, and people take that as a sign that God is not favorable of this family, or that, oh, you're driving the family apart because Satan's got you by the leash. That's not what it is. It's about not just self-expression, but confusion. You live your entire life in a society where you have black and white, red and blue, pink and blue. Everything is very segmented and nothing is conjoined. I've always believed that regardless of where you sit on the social, political, or spiritual spectrum, everything is a spectrum. It's a beautiful display of color. When you look at rainbows in nature, there's very little distinction as you're going between colors. You can clearly see the center color, right? You can clearly see yellow, blue, and green. But going between each of the colors on the spectrum, it's really hard to distinguish individual hues. Now, with that being said, the thing that drove me up the wall is he would say, well, I would have my daughter and inform her that she's a girl and that she should not be doing boy things. I think that's really tragic. If you have a parent that's telling you you don't belong or you don't exist or your ideas or your values are wrong, let's face it, every child is different, every person is different, and depending on your parenting style, that can really drive a wedge between certain situations. But on the backside of that, I also believe that if you are to be in a loving relationship as a family, you should be able to have hard conversations and understand where people are coming from. I think Love, Simon is a great example of this. I don't think that anyone in their right mind can argue that that is a movie that pulls your heartstrings. There's something that happens between Simon and his mother. His mother is there, and they're having a conversation shortly after he gets outed at school. And she looks Simon in the eye and says, I had my suspicions, but I wouldn't have known. And it's hard. It's hard for me to watch. You haven't been able to be yourself for a long time. You're free. You can be yourself for the first time in a long time and be more yourself than you've been in a while. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing and I can't remember the lines word for word, but you get the point. It's the truth. That's what happens. When you're a part of the LGBT community, you feel that. And it's mostly hatred. It's mostly things that you fear. And it's not good. Because you are literally selling yourself short every step of the way. And what's tragic about all of this is that no one gets it until you're a part of it. And you don't know what you have until it's gone. And that doesn't just go for LGBT-related issues. That goes for any issue. For all of my straight friends that are watching this video, think about this for a minute, if you will. Someone came and knocked on your door and said, "Where are your guns? We are taking them away." How would you react? Probably very defensively, and you would get aggressive, and you would probably defend yourself, right? If someone came and knocked on your door and said, "By the way, your synagogue, your church, or your place of worship is now permanently closed, and you're no longer allowed to practice anything except this accepted state religion," how would you react? I know what you're going to say, that those aren't the same thing. We already determined that they are. Because if we're spiritual beings and we can't choose the religion that we believe we're a part of, if we can't choose our destiny, our identity, and who we are, I don't think any of you, including myself, would understand God's plan at that point. We all have to come together. Be respectful, be kind, be loving. It doesn't take much to just say thank you. We can have disagreeing political views. I disagree with a lot of my colleagues and coworkers and people I've worked with on construction-related issues and unions. I disagree with everybody. I believe in balance. And when you don't have balance, you get chaos. Single-party rule is the quickest way to become a monarchy. Single-party control is the quickest way to totalitarianism. Single-party ideology and single-minded views are the quickest way to moral and emotional decay and rot. If you want to have a healthy relationship with people, you need to embrace all points of view. I can't stand Ben Shapiro, yet I will listen to him. Do I skip around a lot? Oh, absolutely. But I at least listen to him. I like Vosh. I don't agree with everything he says, and I still have to skip around. but I believe that we all can come together and just see the humanity in one another. This isn't one of my typical videos, and this hasn't been a very typical week for me, and I really enjoy doing videos on content, but I felt like it was very necessary for me to get my values, my beliefs, and my feelings out there, because I feel like a lot of people in the LGBT community are under attack. My husband and I, a couple days ago, celebrated our second wedding anniversary. And he's in the middle of a doctorate program, so we didn't get to do much, but we did something small. We had breakfast for dinner. He loves breakfast, and it was so perfect. Everyone has those special moments they want to cherish with the people they care about. And I think it's time we allow trans people to be themselves. If people disagree with my opinions, that's great. I don't care. We have separated sports. We have separated bathrooms. Okay, then let's get rid of all of it. Let's make everything gender neutral. Men and women can coexist. Women are in the workplace. Gay people are in the workplace. The more diversity you allow, the more balanced things will become. But when you push back against someone's identity and value, that's when you get toxicity. I'm talking both left and right. When you have right-wingers push back against the LGBT community and people on the left, it becomes very, very hostile and dark and disgusting. When people on the left go out there and torch Tesla dealerships, do the Tesla dealerships deserve it? Maybe. Is it an overcorrection? Perhaps. But if no one's listening to what the people want, what else is there to do? There are well over 300 million people in this country. You're not going to please everyone. I can't please everyone. And the comments on my videos show it. But when you see something, you should be able to say something without being ridiculed, attacked, or threatened. I don't have a problem with people doing whatever it is that makes them happy. Where I draw the line is when people tell you you shouldn't exist or you don't belong. Trans people are important. Gay people are important. Anyone on the LGBTQ spectrum is important. Just like every woman, every black man, every white person, and every culture in between. When you allow for self-expression, you allow for creativity and the bridging of gaps. These generational divides get worse because people get stuck. I'm going to leave it there. This has been a long-winded rant, but thank you so much for watching. And until next time, this has been my coffee corner, and I'll catch you on the next one.